Hello and welcome to One Page Fools, the podcast dedicated to all things one page rules. The wargame system big on fun and low on fuss. I'm your host, Jimbo. Yes, that's right, I'm back. Just when I thought I was out, you dragged me back in. Now, you're probably wondering why I shut down the operation in the first place. To be perfectly honest, and you guys and girls deserve my honesty since you've been listening to my ramblings from the start, it was a mixture of things. Work, chronic mental and physical health issues, stress, not to mention the hardest thing of all, being a hobby butterfly. It's hard to talk about a game when you lose interest through no fault of its own. One Page Rules has and remains a top quality product, but I'm the kind of guy who finds it difficult to commit to a single project or system for long, so you can understand why I ended up canning it. When there's pressure on and you fall out of love with your labour of love, well, something has to give. Or, as a good friend of mine said, if you're not enjoying it, why are you doing it? So, coming back, I've expanded my scope a bit, changed things up. My focus now is to not pressure myself so hard. When a video comes out, it comes out. No more beating myself up for missing a month. Similarly, whilst One Page Rules remains the focus, I may chat about other systems every now and then. Nothing big, so, don't expect any 40k chat here. But my aim is to focus on my love of telling a story. Narrative is king in my eyes, which is what this episode is about, coincidentally. But enough about me and mine. Let's get on with the show. The news. Do you like army updates? Because I sure do, and we've got a whole smorgasbord of them. First up is the neon-lit gangs of Hive City. These warring cyberpunks get some brand new profiles to battle each other with. The cult gain a firebrand, a deacon, a fanatic, and Great Vulture. A bit out of place in the whole religious vibe, but sure. The hidden gain Night Ghoul, a Psy Squid, and a Cyber Tentacle, weirdly unrelated to the Cyber Squid. And the last update, and the briefest in the art, is the artisans gaining a cyber spider, meaning there's something of a zoo theme going on in this. Not sure how, but we've got birds, spiders, and squids, oh my. Meanwhile, the Dukies of Vinci and the mummified undead get some new profiles to reflect the fantastic 3D models available through Etsy, including a snazzy automata ball mount. The question is, has any enterprising orc nicked it yet? Meanwhile, the 2.5 army updates continue along, getting there slowly but surely, with beta lists available to test on the One Page Rules website. A little bit dry, but this is what we got so far, guys, and I'd have to say that's it right now for the news. But now let's move on to our main topic. So our main topic for today is narrative. Stories are at the core of human existence. Mankind has used the weaving of tales to further ourselves from our forebears through religious parables, technological inspiration, and socio-political affirmation. The narrative is the key part of us, and as we are of it. It's said that there are only 7 basic stories, and this is reflected within wargaming. How often we meet the same archetypes endlessly, the Dark Lord, the noble hero, the kind of gritty anti-hero looking to do what's right but not necessarily in the best way possible. All these and more form a core part of the wargaming experience, which is inherently a storytelling experience when you boil it down. You bring your toys, and they battle your opponent's toys over a nebulous reason. It is a story, a very basic one, but it's a story nonetheless. This is, in my opinion, the heart of narrative. We are storytellers. We play these games, we tell stories as we go, and that is, to be honest, my jam. I'm a storyteller at heart, so the idea of creating a living, breathing narrative that's entirely controlled by my own whims excites me, and it should do for you too. Now, narrative has a bit of a bad rap, I will admit. It's often seen as the weird middle child between pickup games. You walk into a shop, you ask around, anyone got any X? Somebody puts their hand up. And tournament games, you'll turn up at a hall, have a breakneck game, hopefully with your absolute crushing meta list. A narrative is often seen as somewhat restrictive, but with the thematic reasons in mind, obviously. But this may obviously irk your average player and bore the competitive one. There's also a strong DIY element which can spook those who feel they aren't particularly creative. Which, I can totally understand that, but as hard as it is, if you really want to get into this, you've got to overcome it. You just got to start like every other author, with an idea. It can vary from something as simple as no vehicles in your army, you just want, everyone in your guys to be foot slogging, all the way up to detailed imaginations, which are creating fake civilizations, fake histories, or entirely fictional. Fake is a poor word here. Fictional is probably better. Fictional nations, hence the term imaginations, with its own like detailed explanation for the dysphoria, the people within. It's essentially a living, breathing history document almost. It is often more popular in the historical segments, I will admit. You often see it, especially within like the Renaissance era, I guess. Like there's a lot of these tiny, weird German nations everywhere suddenly. You don't see them often in moderns, which is kind of surprising because you'd think like the whole Cold War sentiment and stuff moving around, you'd get more tiny micronations. But there we go. Where was I? Yes, imaginations, where you could have units with complex listings for your regiment's makeup, intricately modelled conversions of campaign badges on your models, or even status bonuses reflecting their social standing amongst the citizens. Obviously, there's no prerequisite for any of this, of course. It's all as much or as little as you wish. You are the ultimate arbiter of your own story, after all. Of course, narrative isn't merely limited to your own forces and your own creation thereof. The missions and overarching games you play, whether they be pickup or a narrative-rich campaign, all lend themselves well to the storytelling experience. Again, an idea is all you need. What about a mission where the objectives are rations? Which of your units is tough enough to battle on through days of starvation to get their comrades' food? You can tie it into the next game. You spent all that ammunition trying to get to the food, but now you've ran out. So now it's hand-to-hand combat for the entire battle. These are the things that add up and leave your lovingly created armies with strong stories and fond memories. You care more when there's a narrative, I find. No longer is your general merely Orc-Lord of Great Axe. He's Skulltor the Snarler, Archfiend of the Crag Peaks, the toughest, meanest, nastiest guy around, and more than fond of the odd roast elf. One of the core things, though, in my experience when it comes to narrative gaming in any capacity, is that the narrative has to reflect the real world in at least some capacity. If you've lost a battle and your general was killed, don't ignore it, use it. Maybe the guy in charge is his brother, an oldie but a goodie, or a clone. Maybe he's full of cybernetics now, or revived from the dead, giving you opportunities to get a cool new model. You can also reflect it in the rules. Maybe the guy that killed him now, or the faction that killed him, maybe your general and even whole army hates them viciously, or get bonuses thereof. Campaigns use this same idea, with each battle doing something to your force, whether it be simply offering you more points to get troops, or wholesale restrictions on certain weapons or abilities. To use the ammunition example above, maybe in your campaign you lost poorly in one mission, so now you can't use any heavy weapons because when you lost, they stole all your rockets and all your grenades and anything higher than your standard ammunition that you could carry with you. Now, I know what you're asking, but Jimbo, how does this relate to one-page rules? Well, it's very simple. You see, one-page rules is incredibly well suited to narrative work. Between the looser ties of Profile the Miniature, coupled with the very open ally mechanic, you can feasibly create any force you wish. Maybe your rebel force needs a bit of oomph. How about a Titan run by some disaffected 16-year-old dragged into a war he never asked for? What if your Human Defense Force commander isn't exactly a stickler for the rules? Surely High Command won't notice the Dwarf Guild tanks crushing the enemy, eh? Let's not even start about the customizable nature of one-page rules, with the army builders allowing you to manipulate unit profiles to create whatever you need to facilitate your story. Hell, there's even narrative campaigns created explicitly for these games, each with fun little twists on your standard pickup games. Now, obviously none of this creates a story for you, but it makes it easier for you to create a story. You don't feel so locked into certain specific things. Certain games force you to follow certain ideals, certain patterns, certain narratives. But with one-page rules, you can quite easily step outside that and create whatever you need to. In summary, I simply say this. Every game is a story. You just need to run with it. Hobby time! Currently, I'm trying to focus myself on finishing projects, as hard as that may seem. I recently managed to complete a small force of Vikings, initially designed for use in Raven Feast, but easily transferable to Age of Fantasy skirmish or war stuff. Gripping beast models mostly, but the odd artisan miniatures in there. They're very lovely, very simple sculpts, but they paint up very quickly with a mixture of contrast and army paints, but they look wonderful. I don't know about you guys, but I have been seriously like having a bit of a renaissance when it comes to just miniatures that aren't too complicated, that you can just paint up nicely, quickly, and they just look the dog's pajamas, you know? Currently, though, my aim is to finish off the entirety of my Frostgrave collection, which consists of enough bits for both the original book and its first supplement. So, tons of monsters to encounter, and heroic murder hobos, all of whom will no doubt turn up in sellswords. Also, the second supplement, 4 of the Lich Lord, yeah, that's given me more than enough undead guys to potentially start my own undead vampire force for Age of Fantasy. So look forward to that potentially popping up in a few months. And with that, we've finished today's episode, guys. I know it's been a while and this hasn't been very long, but I'd just like to thank all of you for listening and waiting on my work. It's, really humbling and honestly quite inspiring in equal measure. I just want to thank you all and I'll see you later. Bye bye.